Masters Olympia.
Oh, Dave, what about the regular Olympia, dude? You know what?
Or the regular Olympia, right? Exactly. But I'm saying
he's awfully big there, dude. I'm telling you.
He looks as big as he's ever looked to me,
That's
right?
what I mean. He's probably, you know what? Yeah, he's got glutes and hamstrings. I mean, he's impressive.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. And we're back for another edition of Heavy Muscle Radio as we go deep into the month of June, approaching July. Summer is here officially, and Chris Aceto owns a new condo down in Miami, Florida. Congratulations.
Dave, I just want to say that I object to that intro of Species Nutrition onto your own podcast. Right. I don't like any advertising from Species. It should be illegal, and it's quasi, according to some people, immoral.
Matter of fact, I should finance the show right out of my pocketbook.
Yeah. And I hate when Dana White gets advertisements from Coke and Pepsi and Chevrolet. I don't think he's
an atrocity, right? How dare he? How dare he? It's funny how the advertisers actually have no problem paying the money too, right?
Yeah, they gladly fork it over. Hey, Dave. Hi, Dave. Can I come on your website? I need, or on your. Can I advertise on your YouTube station? No, I'm sorry, you can't. Can't do that.
No, yeah, I don't want to let you. Sorry. So when did you get this this condo in Miami that you've been sending me pictures of? That I've been getting. I'm very rarely do I see something that you send me and I'm like, holy mackerel! I wish I bought that. That's amazing.
Friday.
But how long have you been vetting it?
Since 2010. That's fact. Since 2010. I looked at that building in 2010.
Wow. So what came? What changed that all of a sudden you were able to grab it?
The people who live in Miami Beach know that there's. It's an older building. There's a lot of older buildings in Florida on the beach, and you have to pass a 40-year recertification. And basically, a 40-year recertification on a lot of these buildings is they have to go in and, Dave, almost tear the building down and put it back up. In some cases, like this one,
I believe it. You know why I believe that? I'll tell you why I believe it.
Go ahead.
Because I was in 1970s. My parents took us to Florida because my grandmother had moved there for a little bit. And her sister, my grandmother's sister, my Aunt Rebecca, Aunt Ree, lived in Miami. I didn't know what that meant. We drove down there, and sure enough, right on probably the building you own, it could be this apartment she was living in. Rent controlled. It was probably $100 a month. Yeah. And that's where she lived, right on the water. I remember my sister was singing in the lobby for singing in the she was singing Pennies from Heaven, and people were giving her dollar bills they was giving her for donations. She, in the lobby of the apartment complex or whatever they called them back then. I don't even know what they called them. And these are the same buildings that are there that they've been redoing that now are worth millions and billions of dollars, right?
Yeah. So a lot of them they tore down and bought the land and put in modern buildings and stuff, but. Anyway, so I've been waiting, and I wanted to see them get through. I knew that was coming up, and they essentially this building they tore down and rebuilt and remodeled it, and so now it's, it always has the location and real estate location is like genetics. Yeah. It's like genetics.
It's crazy.
So in bodybuilding, so the opportunity came up, and I I've been looking and looking and looking. You know me, I look like you look at snakes every single day.
Yeah, I mean, this is
all day
crazy.
long. And then I went down in whenever I was there last, February, March, April vacation, I think, with the kids. And I walked in for maybe, I didn't spend more than 3 minutes in the unit.
That was it. You said, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do? I guess is this like kind of like a condo, like the other ones? You can rent them out, like for people who are vacationing.
Yeah, I can do. This is a condo hotel, so I can do nightly rentals, or I'm just going to do stuff by the week. You know, maybe 5-day minimum.
Right.
And you know, it's got the the grounds that make it feel luxurious. It's got the pools and the lobbies and the the view. It's got a nice restaurant. It's got like a really nice cafe in the first floor, and water ski, jet ski rentals out front, and bike rentals in the lobby.
That's showing up, yeah.
Yeah,
I almost gave away the next story, which was the Derek Whitsett story, but we'll get to that. Look at that pool. That's a crazy pool, Chris.
Yeah, so I invited Dave. I said I used artificial intelligence, right, to invite you and your family. It was actually Dave. I said, "Dear Dave, leave your family at home so you can come and relax and enjoy, and leave the kids and leave your wife." And Dave said, "No, I can't leave my wife and kids. I got to bring them." And then what happened, Dave?
My wife said, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "What?" She's like, "We're not bringing our kids to ruin his condo. You'll never be friends with him again. Are you crazy?" Then I go in there. Maybe in 10 years, she's like,
and what did I say back? What did I say back?
You laughed your ass off.
I said, any of the Airbnbs I have, wherever there's like deficiencies, like a small hole in the desk, it's all my kids. Like
I said to Chris, "I'll give you $1 million retainer." I said, security deposit.
Yeah, for the damage.
That should cover it. That should cover it right there. My son would probably destroy this waterfall right here. He'd somehow break it.
Yeah.
He was in prime mode.
Jump off. He'd use it as a water slide. Jump off. Yeah.
Oh, he definitely would jump off that, and no fear too. I was afraid to do stuff like that as a kid. I mean, I would do stuff that like was, reasonable, but like I would say that sounds dangerous. Like I don't want to die. Death was the one thing that would prevent me from doing stupid stuff as a kid.
So you wouldn't go on a homemade submarine down to the Titanic?
No, no.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, those guys are crazy. I got news for you. You know what? I mean, you said it best. I was talking to Chris before the show about, why people would cut corners on making a submarine, that's going to go down to the Titanic, when they know that if you make a mistake, the thing can implode and people die. And what did you say?
I said, you know what? I hate government regulation. I tend to be like libertarian / Republican. I hate it. But I deal with it all the time. And when I'm in it, right, with apartments, I have a code issue right now. And at the end of the day, two things. One, I think like it's kind of overreach, like what I have to do right now. But at the same time, I think, it's for life. It's for safety issues. And I know that I'll do it. And the code people who are talking to me know, okay, Chris is a good guy. He'll take care of it. And, within the time frame. But other people wouldn't. In other words, with government regulation, it takes a long time to jump through hoops. It's a pain in the ass. But if you didn't have it, you'd have a free-for-all with, you'd have buildings collapsing like happened in Surfside last year. You'd have, you've had all kinds of, calamities happening. And so that was what I spit out to you. And what you played the tape, and what did the guy say?
Anderson Cooper interviewed the guy who makes these things, that's what his expertise is in. And he said that they were experimenting with a carbon fiber hull, which they had never used before. And carbon fiber is great, if you want to make a car out of it, because it's lightweight and it looks good. But when you can go on, 16,000 feet or whatever they went underneath the water there, 4 miles down, and the pressure is insane. There's testing that needs to be done. And I guess these guys that were doing it, these billionaires, they were like, we don't, it's taking too long, to get with all the regulations and testing. And we just want to get this thing going so we can get passengers down there and see the Titanic. Why they had to make it out of carbon fiber, I have no idea. But they cut corners basically, and this is what happens. And the level of arrogance of these guys was that they actually went into thing themselves. Like they weren't even worried, you know, after this guy who's an expert said, I'm not so sure about this, you know, we've never done it this way before, because they have these things that go way deeper, you know, Chris, and they never have any problems with them. James Cameron alone, you know, the guy who made Titanic, he's been in like 22 trips he's done in similar, not in this one, but in similar ones. You know? So it amazes me though that people who have a lot of money would cheap out, you know, or try to do things, cut corners, you know. It's just
I mean, you know, you're probably putting the thing together and you have a budget or you have an idea what it's going to cost, and then the costs just start piling up. And even for a billionaire, right? They're piling and piling and piling. And you realize, like, okay, can we cut corners and get this thing in the water and sell the tickets for $250 grand?
Oh, better way to.
Because you know what, Dave? Amazingly, had it survived, you know, it'd have like 1 million people lining up to pay $250 to go down and see the Titanic. And it could have happened on trip number 9, you know?
But these guys knew if they went into the thing and took the trip that people would be like, oh, okay, if these guys are going to go in, it must be safe, you know. Unfortunately,
did you hear they tried to pay Leonardo DiCaprio $5 million to go on the initial voyage? I made that up. I made that up. It'd be great advertising, right?
Yeah, Valentino's would have done it for $20 probably if they would have given him $20.
Valentino could have gone down with Roger Stone. They would have had a great time. They could have got.
They should have sent William Shatner down there too. I mean, they sent him into space, right?
No, they could have. They both could have got high in there and only gone down like 20 feet, and you could have shown them a picture of the Titanic, like out that little window that's like.
That's what everyone should happen to Shatner. Shatner never really went into space. He doesn't remember what happened. You know, they said that they bamboozled him. He thought he went into space.
Oh yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I you hear about these things. You know, hopefully this accident will, you know, make people have to adhere to certain regulations. I mean, when you're going down that deep, it's not like you're scuba diving. I think people think it's like scuba diving. You 4 miles down is like, that's a long way down. I mean, you can't just, if something goes wrong, you can't fix it. You're not coming up to the surface. It's not like you're at the bottom of your swimming pool and the mask is letting water and I got to swim to the top and fix it. Yeah. You know, you don't just surface this thing. It doesn't happen like that. You're screwed basically. I don't know. Look, people tell me, you know, I don't know how, Dave, I don't know how you did that hyperbaric chamber. You know, they in the hyperbaric chamber, I did it when I cut my toe off, if you remember that whole fiasco. And they had to sew it back on. And I went and did hyperbaric chamber, like 20 sessions. They put you in this, it looks like a big tanning bed. It's way bigger than a tanning bed. And they once you're under compression, they can't just open the thing up if you freak out because you're under compression. It's like you're under the ocean. So it's essentially mimicking what would happen, you know, under the ocean under tremendous pressure. But the oxygen level you're getting in there is saturates your body, which is really good for healing. People, how did you do that? It's like you're in a tomb, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm in a tomb, but I'm also not under, you know, 3 miles under the water. I remember telling someone this. It's like they can still get me out of there. Yeah, it's not gonna. They can't do it in 30 seconds, but I mean, what the hell is going to happen to me? I'm in a hospital. You know, I'm just in a tube basically. I mean, and it was pretty big, and you can see out of it. It's not like it was see-through. So, but going down under the ocean, and I've scuba dived 1 or 2 times, really once. And I was only 8 feet down. It's nerve-wracking when you're under there because you're like, I'm depending exclusively on this oxygen tank to keep me alive.
Yeah.
Imagine now you and I in a tin can, you know, 4 miles under the ocean, and something starts making noises, Chris. You and I would lose our fucking minds probably. You know?
If you looked, I'm sure you did inside. I sent it to you right away when it happened. I said it's this seatage where you sit cross-legged is no bigger than it's smaller than a minivan. So just think of the anxiety, and you can't stand up in it.
No,
so think of the potential anxiety just if something, you know, the lights flickered while you're going down. You'd be like, My God, you want to stand up and look around.
Yeah, and think about what you do with, like, what is it? What they were using, like a PlayStation joystick there was controlling the whole thing.
Yeah.
What do you do when you're playing like a video game that doesn't work? You start slamming the controller on the floor, right, to get it to work, right? That's not the controller I wanted in my sub either,
The batteries die on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just people do reckless stuff, and usually it's because of accidents that happen because of the reckless stuff that actually makes things better down the road. So I'm sure there'll be a million regulations.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that's what happens. Things get like over-regulated after the fact.
Yeah. Well, it's like Titanic. When they made Titanic, right, they didn't have enough lifeboats for everyone on board because they said it was going to ruin the aesthetics of the boat.
Well, it could never sink.
Well, right, but I'm saying they purposely didn't put enough there because they said it's not going to look nice. So obviously now after the Titanic sank, you have to have a lifeboat for every person has to have the ability to get off the boat. So that's what happens when accidents happen. You get better better protocols in place. I don't think. Think bodybuilders would be the last people that would want to go down in one of these subs because we're like too big already, and we suck up way too much oxygen. So they would never let us in there. Imagine Ronnie Coleman going in one of those things back in his heyday.
Yeah, well, then you could only have one other passenger to be too big.
Speaking of, imagine Kai Greene and Ronnie Coleman going in one of those things.
Oh God, it'd be nicest to do a Kai Greene set in when he had that. Remember he had like the Carol Burnett show, the Kai Greene show for a couple episodes.
Yeah. Have a little skit of Ronnie and in a submarine together. How much food? They would not be able to bring enough food down there.
Exactly.
I would have like a cooler with him with like 45 chicken breasts in there, just for the 8-hour journey there. But
who ate more, Kai? Who ate more, Kai or Coleman?
I think Kai ate more. I do. I think Kai ate more protein.
Yeah.
Ronnie ate more. I don't think Kai Greene used Masterpiece barbecue sauce. Ronnie might have had more calories in his meals, but Kai definitely ate more.
No, because Coleman followed the no carb, 1,000 carb diet, which was there was no carbs supposedly in the diet. Like Chad would have him on 0 carbs, but he'd have to make up for it with 1,000 carbs of barbecue sauce.
Pure sugar. If I have one more person ask me, Chris, about, and I know the people that I work with watch the programming, and I talk about this all the time, but maybe I don't talk about it enough. One more person ask me if they can use sugar-free ketchup on their diet, I'm going to murder them.
What do you tell them?
No, they think that there's no carbs in there, but there is carbs because ketchup is made of tomatoes. They just don't add extra sugar. Like Hellman, what is it called? The ketchup everyone uses. Who makes that? Hellman's?
I don't know what they use.
Whatever. Real ketchup has tomatoes with spices and sugar added to it.
You can make the Bob Gruskin. He would use the no sugar ketchup, but then it'd add water to it and a little mustard.
Right, but
then a little sweet and low and shake it up so it's even more diluted of carbs.
Right. But you were basically eating water with sweet and low in it, basically. It was a red color, so you thought that it was there was ketchup in it. But no, but sugar-free ketchup has got a lot of carbs in it. They're just not added carbs. They're the carbs that are naturally in tomatoes. You're not eating tomato sauce while you're dieting, right? And tomato sauce really, I mean, it depends on how you make it. It doesn't have a lot of sugar added to it. I never put sugar in my tomato sauce, but it still has a lot of carbs because it's made of tomatoes. Tomatoes are fruits. So anyway, getting back to, I was segueing to Kai Greene because Kai did a guest posing. Did you see that?
He did.
Yeah.
Really? Oh my goodness. That must have got everybody buzzing.
Yep. He was in.
Where did he guest pose? They
must have paid him a lot of money. Because
looks good to me. Yeah. Look at that.
He's huge, right?
Yeah, he's big.
I don't know why this guy wouldn't do the Masters Olympia.
Oh, Dave, what about the regular Olympia, dude? You know what?
Or the regular Olympia, right? Exactly. But I'm saying
if Kai did he's awfully big there, dude. I'm telling you.
He looks as big as he's ever looked to me, right?
That's what I mean. He's probably, you know what? Yeah, he's got glutes and hamstrings. I mean, he's impressive.
I mean, his waist might be a little bigger.
Okay, here's okay. Ready for the litmus test?
Yeah.
Who wins, him or Samson?
That's a good question. And he's not in contest shape here, obviously.
Oh,
so we can't. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to see them next to each other.
Who's
from the
leaner
behind,
right now? Who's leaner
from behind? Kai Greene. Yeah.
Who's got a better back double? You can see right from this. Who's got a better back? That's right.
Kai Greene.
I'm not crapping on Samson. I'm just saying that Kai.
Yeah.
You know, a novice can look at that and say he's in really good shape and he's big.
He writes.
Dude, if he did the Olympia, the crowd would like it. The promoter would like it.
Oh my God! Yeah.
The internet would like it, and you could bring back. Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't do this thing. Let me see if we can find some more pictures.
Remember, Dave.
Well, let me give you're a good. Hold on, you're a very good psychologist. Why is Kai? Why hasn't he competed? Why is he still staying as big as he is, but he's not competing?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Come on, you're the psychologist. You're always right about this stuff.
Well, primarily he's staying big because his identity is based on being big, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's hard to. It's he obviously loves to train,
right?
But he's specifically still staying big because it works for him. It works for him mentally, and it works for him probably financially. I'm sure he's still, drawing
the Shuru Classic in India,
from whatever he's doing.
Yeah, this was the Shuru Classic in India, by the way.
I knew you'd say that.
I'm sure they paid him a lot.
It was a Shuru, rather. I knew it was a Shuru, simply because they love him in India, and he.
You know what? I can understand. Obviously, they offered him a lot of money, but you know what? I mean, he is still huge. I mean, and that's his own choice. But if you're that big, my father said something to me that was very wise once. He said a lot of stuff that was wise over the years. But I was running. I was into this running whole thing, and I went to college. And for some reason, the first year I was there, the coach wanted me to run, and I didn't want to run on the team. And I was putting in like 10 miles a day, Chris. Yeah. And I had come home for, I don't know, maybe it was Thanksgiving or something like that. And I went out and I did my runs. And my father's like, why are you running so much? I don't understand why I said, well, I'm trying to be the best I can be, and he's like, for what though? He goes, you're not running on the team.
Yeah. You have no measurement.
Yeah. I said, well,
measure it by.
And my father could care less about like running, but he's like, you're putting an awful lot of effort into something, and you're not even testing, how good you are. I said, he's like, if you're going to run this much and put this much effort into it, then compete. Yeah. At least. And I said, yeah, I guess you're right. And then I did it, and I started doing well. And I said, I knew he was right, but I don't even know. It was like an obsession I had with it. It was almost, but I'm like, why am I doing it at this level if I'm not going to even, take advantage of it? And so I have to think the same thing with Kai. Like, I'm like, Kai is still putting in maximum effort, obviously, in the gym. He's not any smaller than he was. Maybe the structure and shape of his body is not quite as what it was when he was in his 30s, 40s, but in his 30s, but he still looks damn good. Like you said, he might be able to win the Olympia still at this point, if he got in shape, and did it. Why wouldn't he, want to compete at least? I mean,
that's the bigger question, because, he's got an Olympia winning physique, and, he's got things that other people don't have.
Muscle maturity.
Muscle maturity. He's got back shots that are extremely impressive. He's always has a crazy cross-sided quads, which is just hard for people to get. And if they do get them, their legs aren't as big as his.
Level of excitement.
The level of excitement, just and Kai. I don't care how old Kai is. Chronologically, he's maybe 40 something, but he trained many, many years without anabolics. So the toll You know, he's not age. There's other people who might be 30 who've been taking anabolics a lot longer than him and a lot more than him.
True. Very true.
So just because he's older, you know, on his birth certificate doesn't mean that he's older, you know, with his physique.
Right. Oh, you're right. Look at the fans greeting him.
Sure. He's, you know. Hey, Dave, it'd be great if you could get an interview. Look, yeah, he's wide as a house. He's
Look at his back. Who has a back like that, Chris?
Well, if he, you know, we just saw him look lean on stage, and he looks like fat in a suit, so that means he's impressive. Because that just means he's big. If you saw him here, say, "Oh yeah, Kai's guest posing. He must be fat. Look how big he is in that suit."
He must be borrowing Ronnie Coleman's old suit collection. Remember, Ronnie had those like, as my mother would say, Omar the tent maker made this suit. You know, from. Kai loves this. Look, he's got the authentic Indian people doing like Indian dances.
Yeah. He'll dance right with him. He'll pick it up in 2 seconds.
and he'll do it better than them too. That's the funny thing.
With the bodyguards and listen, he's you want a crazy wild card in the Olympia. Crazy, can win it and can be the most exciting person on stage without a shadow of a doubt. Kai Greene, full stop, period. And you know, do you have to pay him to compete? Sometimes you have to break rules.
Yeah. I think I would throw money.
You know what? You can create a lot of benefit for the Olympia by having him in the show. And you know, I know people would cry and say he's not qualified and all this, but right? Doesn't the promoter have the ability to make a special invite?
The IFBB I think could invite him. Right? Okay. Is it I think it's the IFBB. I don't know if Jake Wood can do it.
Maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it is.
But who wouldn't? Come on, who's not going to invite Kai Greene? I mean, you know what?
Dude, the audience would go absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
The build up to the show, can Kai win, would be like the biggest hype that the Olympia has ever had. Because the fact of the matter is, he could.
Yeah.
Technically, he could win.
You know what the funny thing would be? And look, I haven't gone to an Olympia in a couple of years, and you know, and a lot of it, some of it had to do with COVID, but a lot of it had to do with, you know, I have kids, so it's hard to get away. And I'll probably go this year because it's in Orlando and I can drive over there. But if I knew Kai Greene was in the Olympia, and I knew it would probably be a one-time thing, I would get my ass over there, believe me, and I'd see that show. And you know what? A lot of other fans would do the same thing because it would be something you could talk about for the next 20 years about when Kai Greene made the comeback after, you know, being out of the sport for over 10 years. And whether he wins or not, it doesn't matter because his comeback versus like a Levrone comeback or Wheeler comeback, which they were a shell of their, you know, former self. He's still just as good as he was, you know?
Yeah.
Or close to it, you know? Size-wise, he is definitely as good as he's definitely over. He looks like he's 300 plus pounds. He's got to be, I would think, in those.
Send him a text message.
Yeah, but you know, I'll send him a text message and I'll get back in 3 days. I'll get this esoteric, you know, response from him because, you know, he likes the fact that, you know, people are talking about him, and we all do. I mean, it's only natural to want people to like acknowledge what you've achieved and what you still look like. But for some reason, he doesn't want to do he doesn't want to compete anymore. But I guess guest posings are not out of the question. Now, if that is the case, I mean, how much would it take for Jake Wood to get this guy to go to the Masters Nationals and do a guest posing at least? Even if Kai didn't want to get on stage and compete, how about get the guy to guest pose? We've mentioned this before.
He may guest pose over there. Who knows? I mean, he's obviously in shape. I think that's a nice. That would be
a second best. I mean, I'd like to see him compete. You and I, obviously, to see how he can stack up. But how about a guest posing? You know?
Yeah. No. I mean,
instead of hiring like, you know, a celebrity to be there that no one really cares about, you know, or you know, doing some other, because you know the Olympia always does some kind of like promotional event aspect to the show to make it look like it's high quality, which I like, but getting Kai Greene there would eclipse anything that they could possibly do, you know?
Yeah.
Anything.
Here we are, Dave, 10 years later, still talking about Kai.
Yeah, because he's still relevant. He kept himself relevant.
No, I know. He's very relevant. His physique makes him relevant. That guest posing, the way he looked there makes him relevant.
I mean, we talk about Dexter Jackson. I mean, how old is Kai? Kai's got to be.
Get Dexter on text Dexter. Dexter will encourage him to do it.
How old is Jay? Because I think the two of them are the same age.
50.
So Kai's got to be close to 50 then.
Right around 50, 51, you know. That's Kamal's age. Kamal was, you know, second in an open pro show last year.
Even if he's like 48, 49, he's got to be close to 50 years old. I mean, that's pretty impressive to be that big at close to 50 years old.
Yeah.
It's insane, actually, to be honest with you. But Kai lives that lifestyle. He trains, you know, like he's used to, you know, Romano used to tell me that when Lou Ferrigno would go on these airplanes, he'd be in first class and he'd have like his muscle magazines with him, and he'd have like the tuna and rice, you know, in Tupperware with him on the plane, and he'd open it up and eat it. He probably still does it at 70 years old. He's probably still doing it because he lives the lifestyle. That's why he looks so good, you know.
Yeah.
And Kai Greene's the same way. You know, he still probably brings all his food with him and packs 45 chicken breasts with him.
Right. I told you, like when Jay's at home, he makes fun of it. He still measures all the food, like chicken, and all of it.
Yeah, I don't measure food, but yeah, I know what you're saying. I still eat the same type of foods because it's like ingrained in my head. You know, and I feel guilty when I go. Like we went to like a Ford's garage. It's like it looks like a Ford, auto repair place, and they serve like burgers, and they actually have salmon there. And the kids had burgers and fries, and I'm eating like salmon and salad, because that's what I eat. That's how I always eat. Of course. When it was all said and done, I wind up eating the kids' friend. I'm like my father. I eat all the leftovers, But yesterday there wasn't that many leftovers. My son was actually eating off my plate yesterday. So
yeah,
I left there hungry. Actually, I'm like, "What's going on? How come you guys ate all your food today?" I said, "No one's leaving over anything."
Yeah, that's what I do.
My daughter, my youngest one, will leave over her whole meal, and I'll just sit right next to her, and I'll just
that's what I do.
I'll eat her meal. But they left over nothing yesterday. So I was left high and dry, basically. What do you think? What do you think it would take Jake Wood to get Kai Greene in the show?
Money.
Yeah, I'm saying, how much? How much?
Kai probably. I mean, pay him 100. He might do it. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think he would do it for 100.
It's not a lot. I mean, it's a lot of money, but not a lot of money. It's not like you're getting like grandfather Kai or Kai's, you're getting someone who's, gonna be in the mix to win it, and you're getting someone who has fan appeal, to the extent he's got Chris Bumstead like fan appeal.
Yeah, you know what?
So, if Chris Bumstead says tomorrow, I'm retired, the division goes on and expands and grows, and it's still a great show, but as a promoter, you want to have the guy who's got the incredible following and the physique in the show, and that's what Kai also has.
Math right now at $50 a pop for the.
I was going to do it, Dave. I was going to say, how much do you have to increase the ticket?
How many live streams are you going to sell more if Kai Greene is in the show? $50 a pop, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to give him $100,000, right?
Yeah.
Divided by 50. Hold on, I didn't do it right. Divided by 50. So you got to sell 2,000 live streams more, and you paid off the $100,000 you just gave Kai to make the.
Kai could pre-sell that on his own Instagram.
He could sell 10,000 easy. 10,000 live streams, he'd sell more. I guarantee it. You'd make 5 times your money if you got Kai Greene.
Well, maybe Dave. See, that's how people become like brokers. You come in, and you tell before you even have it done. This is how people. You go to Jake Wood and say, Jake, I've spoken to Kai. He's agreed to it. It's $100,000. But and I'm going to partner with you.
I want 10% of the live stream.
No. You tell them every live stream you sell after 2,000, you get a 50-50 split. You and him. Right. So Jake gets, it takes him 2,000 to get to his goal.
Well,
and then,
you got to figure out what they normally sell, and then above that, because otherwise, let's say they sell, I don't know, what do you think they sell for the Olympia? 10,000? I don't even know if they sell 10,000.
Let's say
10,000 live streams. So if they sell 12,000. Anything above that, we split 50-50, right?
50-50.
Yeah.
But you got to tell them first. It's a done deal. I've talked to George. I've talked to Kai.
Right.
They're all on board.
Right.
You know, he's ready to sign.
Actually, you might have to give Kai Greene a 10% of the live stream too. You know.
Well, maybe you have to do a 40. You know,
it's
50
like Floyd Mayweather. He gets
Kai.
a percentage of the pay-per-views too. You know.
You know, it sounds nonsensical, but it's not nonsensical.
Kai Greene.
And if it's successful, Dave, and you look back, you say that was the, you know, decision of a you know, tremendous decision.
Kai Greene should go and talk to Floyd Mayweather. And you know why? Because Floyd Mayweather is 46 years old, very similar to Kai, probably, you know, close in age. And he's making millions and millions of dollars still. You know why? Because he's taking these exhibition fights against the YouTube celebrities and social media celebrities like Logan Paul, and he just fought that John Gotti III. You know, anyone who's like got popularity, and he's making millions because people want to see him fight, and they want to see if these guys who are supposedly social media darlings can beat him. Right? Same thing with Kai. Kai should be leveraging his popularity and the fact that he's still in good shape and looks good to make money off of it, you know? No one expects it. First of all, he's got nothing to lose because people will say, hey, the guy's 50 years old. We don't expect him to win. But if he does win, then he's a hero. It's like the George Foreman phenomenon. Remember when George came back?
Yeah.
I mean, people thought he was nuts. They're like, this guy is in his 40s.
Knocked out Michael Moore. I was at Jay's house.
Oh, you were at Jay's house when that happened?
Yeah, I was in one room. He was in another. We were both watching it. And then the punch. That was it. All over, lights out.
Teddy Atlas, who was in the corner with Michael Moore, who was the champ at the time, the heavyweight champion, said, stay away from this guy. He has got a deadly knockout punch. And Michael Moore's like, I'm the champ. This guy's an old guy. He's not going to hit me. Teddy Atlas said, stay away from him. We don't need this. You're winning the fight. And he couldn't do it and got right in front. And Foreman said he set him up and he hit him with a shot and knocked him, almost killed him with the shot because he had a heavy punch. And Kai Greene's the same. You know, people will take him for granted. Oh, the guy's 50. Yeah, we've seen these comebacks from Levrone and all these other guys. They're never that good. And he can come in at his best, you know, and he could win that. He could win the show possibly, you know.
Dave, if you can't come up as an athlete's broker to watch it, because you know who's going to steal the idea? Bob Chick.
Yeah, and he'll make it his idea, right?
If you can't get Kai into the Olympia, maybe you can get as the undercard for the Olympia, Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk.
Well, you think they will fight? I heard they're gonna, but
who knows?
They're crazy.
Maybe.
The two of them are crazy. Yeah, they might do it.
Maybe
they would not want to fight Zuckerberg.
Got to get on the same cycle as Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to fight Zuckerberg because Zuckerberg, there's something like something doesn't. You ever notice like he's like in another world. Like, you know, he looks dangerous to me. You know,
he talks like a machine. He talks like a.
Elon's a little weird, but Elon's like Kai Greene weird, whereas like Zuckerberg looks like he could be a serial killer if he didn't make billions of dollars.
Elon is like a P.T. Barnum. He'll say he's going to go in and fight Zuckerberg just to get, you know, it's good for business.
Right. Good for
Zuckerberg
Twitter.
is like, okay, he wants to fight, I'll fight him. I've been doing jiu-jitsu or whatever he's doing.
Yeah. But I think we live in a crazy age, but social media is where it's at. And if you want to make money and cash in, Kai Greene, I would say, has another 5 years where he could probably maintain that physique. And then things start going wrong. When you hit your 50s, things fall apart. Everyone knows that. So he should cash in. I mean, he probably has a nice amount of money in his bank account, but you know what? You could always use more. And if you're going to be that big anyway, leverage it, make some money, put it away, and then this way when you hit your 50s and 60s, you can kind of relax. You got a nice nest egg there to live off of. Maybe buy a condo in Chris's building over there. Maybe Chris can get Kai a good deal, and you can be neighbors.
Maybe you can, if you can't hit up Kai after this, or George after this, or Dexter to get Kai to do the show. Dan Solomon is a promoter. He would like the.
Dan sees them all the time. They live right near each other there. Believe me, I'm sure Dan has done the Chinese water torch on plenty of times already. You know, to get him to do it.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like you said, Chris, you said if money talks, man.
It does.
You can't just try to convince Kai to do the show without having some leverage. The only leverage you can have over him is money, because everyone has their own. Everyone's got a price. There's a price on everything, right? I mean,
almost, you know, unless you have like someone who has like incredible barriers and boundaries in terms of morals. You know, it's hard to get people to jump over that. But if they're like wishy-washy, you know, money talks.
Chris, if I went to you and said, Chris, what'd you pay for that condo? I really want that condo. You're like, I don't want to sell it. And I offered you $100,000 over what you paid. You'd probably sell it to me.
Yeah, why not?
Right. And you buy another one. That's all. That's how it works, you know. But
well, you're not married to it. It's not like your wife or
kid.
Know,
but I know you love that condo. You're probably so happy you bought it. I mean, you've been looking at it for 13 years, and now you got it. Yeah, and now you got it. Now I'm going to take it away from you in 10 minutes because I want to buy it more.
13 years, Dave, of due diligence.
That's right.
And yet, you know what's so funny?
Black would be very proud of you.
Dave, I only walked through it for not even 3 minutes. Left, right, left view. Okay, okay.
It's about location. You know that. That's why.
Yeah, it's like genetics.
You could always fix up whatever's in there. It's not like it's
of course.
It's not a 8-story house or anything like that. You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. All right, Chris sent me another picture too. I got to put up here.
I don't know where I found this. Oh, you know where I found this? I was looking for a nail clipper that my 4-year-old had stolen, and I found this picture in the bottom of a drawer with the nail clipper.
Name that bodybuilder. I'm sure John Hansen already said his name, probably. Derek Whitsett.
I didn't know I competed with Haney.
That's Derek Whitsett, which ironically, Chris beat him at this show. This is the Teenage America or USA? USA. Yeah. And you were 19. Was Derek 19 here too?
Derek was 19. Yeah.
He looks like a young Kai Greene here, actually.
Yeah, he's very, very Kai Greenish. Yeah. That picture doesn't do him any justice. He was 3 times as big as me, actually.
He's probably 100% natural here too. We were saying before, joking.
200 probably, like Kai.
Now the funny thing about this is that this is 19 what?
85.
So
86.
1994, I competed against Derek. I didn't know who he was. I showed up at the Suburban Championships. It was the week before I just won the Metropolitan Championships in the heavyweight class. And I went to do this show just as why not? Doug Wentz talked me into it. And the week after this, I was going to do Junior USA. And so I thought this would be a walk in the park, especially in the heavyweight class. I figured I'd win it. And of course, I go backstage and I look and I see Derek Whitsett. And you know what? It was funny because Chris said when you guys walked backstage, you and Bob Grushkin, and Bob saw Derek, what did he do?
He almost fainted. He said there's a kid who looks like a man.
Well, when Doug Wentz, who was helping me, who was a disciple of Bob, just like you were, when he walked backstage and he saw Derek, and because Derek didn't look like anything to me, just standing there. Doug's like, you might have some trouble. I'm like, trouble with who? He's like, that guy over there. I know him, Derek Whitsett. He goes, he's good. I said, he doesn't look that hard. He goes, wait till you see him under the lights. And sure enough, he wound up beating me. And then he beat me the week after at the Junior USA. And then he actually dropped down to light heavyweight about, I don't know what it was, maybe 10 weeks later at the Nationals. And he won the 94 light heavyweight class at the Nationals. And that was a good class.
Yeah, DeMayo won
overall
the Open. And I couldn't believe that Derek made the weight class, and I couldn't believe that I could ever beat someone like that.
It was crazy. I mean, he sucked down and he beat all the guys that were the top guys at the time in light heavy. And
he looked like a Junior Coleman for that show.
Yes, yes. And the funny thing was that was the first national show I ever went to. I remember it it's like the next day, like it was the first show. I said, I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to go to. I think it was in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm going to go see that show.
Dave, there's a funny. I was at Bob's for a week before that show, Bob Gruskin's in the basement,
Right.
and Joe Miko was there for a day and a half. And Joe said, "Oh, your physique is like my physique," which I thought he had small arms, which was true, you know. But he was like, you know, condition type guy, and Bob ordered him. He was getting ready for a show, an important show. Bob ordered him a pizza.
Oh wow!
A giant pizza, like humongous pizza delivered to his house, and I'm like, "What is this?" And Joe ate it all by himself, like ate it. And Bob said, "Yeah, he's got a fast metabolism. He's got to eat this stuff."
That's great.
Insane.
Well,
I mean,
the
it was
funny
like,
thing was, to even add more, you know, interestingness to the whole process. Paul DeMeo was working for Metrics at the time, which I was very jealous. I always wanted to work for Metrics, which I eventually did wind up working for Metrics, which is kind of cool. But Paul came out, Scott Conley, who was the owner of Metrics, came out and did a seminar at my friend's store. And Paul came with him. And Paul was, I guess, maybe 6 weeks out from Nationals or something like that.
Yeah.
I had never met him. And of course, you know, I was the biggest guy, you know, one of the biggest guys there. So we were sitting and chatting and talking.
He might be funnier than Nasser, but go ahead.
He was great. It was one of the highlights of my early bodybuilding career to actually sit down with a guy who was the size of him. And I had seen him in the magazine, Quadzilla, the whole thing. I think I actually enjoyed hanging out with Paul more than I actually did listening to Conley, even though I went to 2 of his seminars and listened to the thing twice. That's how
Paul's physique is very Lee Priest-like.
Yeah, except he's tall, you know.
Yeah.
He looked insane. His calves were nuts, and he was like he had torn his calf muscle. You remember?
Yes,
and,
that's right. You got a good memory. Yes.
Yeah. I remember because I said, "What? You know, how are you training and everything?" He's like, "I'm taking these things Percocets. They're great." He goes, "I don't feel any pain." Unfortunately, that was his undoing. It was like a foreshadowing. But so when I went to Nationals to see the show, it was like I wasn't friends with Paul, but I kind of even had a more of an interest now because I kind of knew Paul. I knew his whole backstory now because we spent the day talking together. And it was great because I saw Derek, you know, it was like, that was my first, and that's when I realized, because someone had given me advice, and I'll give the same advice to the people watching out there. If you're competing, okay, and you want to go to that next level or you're at that level, you have to go to the shows, even if you're not in the show. The reason is because you need to network with people, because it's the same people at every show, okay? The same judges, the same press, the same people run the organization, and the same top athletes. And it's good to talk to people. You never know who you're going to meet at these shows. It was probably more relevant back in the day because the magazines were all there, and a lot of times you got magazine, you know, connections. But you might get guest posing jobs from it. You might get a supplement company that comes up to you and say, "Hey, you look great. I want to hire you." You got to go to the Nationals, the USA, the Olympia, the Arnold. I know it's expensive, but it's part of the process. And if you want to be the best and at the top, you have to go to these shows. And I know they suck now because they're very long shows because there's 800 divisions, which there wasn't back in the 90s, but it doesn't matter. You still got to go to the shows and show your face there. And I can't stress that enough. I know you were at you were at all the shows too. I used to always see you, even though we didn't really know each other. We saw each other.
Yeah, look we got no degrees of separation with Whitsett.
The whole thing is crazy with the degrees of separation, because it's incredible that you, me, and John Romano all ran in the same circles, but yet never really, you know, were friends.
I used to see Romano when I had my office in Gold's Venice. Yeah. I would see Romano 6 times a day. I'm not exaggerating.
Right. You just probably say, "Hey, what's up?" That's it, right?
And he would sit on the bench out in front of Gold's all day long. And I didn't really know. He'd be with Dan Duchesne. And like, I'd walk by and I was like, all business, you know, because I was working there. I bought, and both of them would say like peanut gallery stuff. Yeah. And I never wanted to get involved with them because I was, you know, Dan, no degrees of separation, trained in my gym, me, him, and Skip Robinson in Maine.
Yeah.
And Skip told me stay away from Dan. So I even then I must have been 20, I don't know, 21, 20, and I right out of college, and I get nervous seeing Dan and Romano, who I didn't know who he was other than John. I think I knew like John. I think I knew his name only because Dan told me. Okay. And but Dave, I'd walk by and Dan would say stupid stuff all day long to me, derogatory stuff all day.
because you were a main guy.
Hard to, he'd sprinkle in like drug comments all day, and
he was making all his money selling
recreational-
drugs, and you were actually working and actually having to make money like by the hour, so to speak.
Yeah, it was just crazy. So there's no degrees of separation between me and John.
I'm going to throw another one at. I don't know if you know Paul Sully Sullivan.
Yeah, of course I do. I lived in his car for 25 years out in front of Gold's.
He's still doing it. Well, Sully.
Are you serious?
Yes, Sully.
Right. Tell people who Sully Sullivan is.
He was in that movie Bigger, Stronger, Faster. If you've seen that movie,
I didn't even,
he's from Boston area, and he moved out to Cali, and he lived in his car because he wanted to live the bodybuilding lifestyle. He actually was in the movie Over the Top.
Yeah,
the arm wrestling movie.
Yeah,
he's one of the freaky guys in that movie. I don't even know.
People, just to take people back a little bit, Gold's Venice. So there was no magazines. I mean, there was no internet. There was no social media. There was just magazines. People lived in their cars next to Gold's, and that's where they lived. They came.
Now they live in tents next to Gold's. Unfortunately, Chris.
Mike O'Hearn lived in his car before.
He did. I didn't know that.
I believe so. Because maybe within 3 to 4 days of Ed, of course, Ed discovering him, Ed, brought him into my office and said, "Look at this kid." And I think he was like 20. And I sat down with Mike O'Hearn, and I swear, Dave, Mike said, like, "Oh yeah, I bench press like 590. I deadlift." I'm like, "This kid's out of his mind. You don't know what he's just a liar." And he did. And Dave Fisher was in his. Do you remember Dave Fisher won the North American?
I know Dave. I know Dave. I've been to his gym. Yeah.
Dave, who I ended up coaching by means
great guy.
Of Ed Connors, owner of Gold's Gym. Right. Ed found him, sleeping in his car like Sully Sullivan. Lots of people slept in their cars and then trained at the gym, used the showers, ate, locally. Right. And they thought nothing of it. Nighttime, get in your car, can't wait to get up. I mean, because no matter where you came from, the beauty was you were training at the best gym in the world, and it wasn't expensive. And you were training not only at the best gym at that time, but with the best bodybuilders. It's one thing to train at the best gym and sleep in your car, but to train at the best gym and like be training behind besides Mike Christian all day long, is just like a dream.
And then what happened is guys would make contacts, and they would get roommates or with other guys, and they would share apartments and stuff like that, and that's how they did it. But Sully, I think he's still there, and he's on Facebook, so he's always sending me like all kinds of crazy stuff on Facebook. So he sent me this thing, I guess about maybe you could. I wanted to ask you about this. Tony Atlas. Was Tony Atlas? Did he set the world record in the bench press at some point? Because
Tony Atlas Tony Atlas lives in the same town as me.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you. Wasn't he didn't he have like a 700-pound bench raw in the gym or something like that?
I think he did. Yeah, no belt, no wraps, no nothing. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I think he told you that on this show, Dave.
I can't remember, but Sully was sent me something where he was actually. I think he was spotting him for that bench press just to make everything go full circle. It was crazy. Tony Atlas is another Kai Greene, by the way, who probably
Tony Atlas. I'll tell you, it's a great story.
Okay.
Tony Atlas was Rocky Johnson's tag team partner in the WWE, and of course, Rocky Johnson is The Rock's father, right?
Yep.
So no degrees of separation, 1 degree between me and The Rock. But Tony. I told you last week on the show that I went to the first NPC Nationals in 1982, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I text Jermaine that. And two celebrities were in that show. Tony Little. Remember Tony Little?
I know Tony Little very well. I have my own Tony Little story I can tell you. He did the
Tony
Gazelle.
Little made gazillions on infomercial, screaming, like a lunatic. Yeah. And Tony Atlas did that show too.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that.
Yes, and he did that show on a whim, the Nationals is in town. I'm wrestling that the next day. And he didn't do well, but he just went into the show as is.
Oh my God. That's funny. I'd love to see those pictures, right?
Yeah.
Probably Bob had him on his camera somewhere, right?
Yeah, Bob was there. I know Bob at the time, but Bob was there and Jerry Scalise was there because Jerry had texted. Jerry was in the show.
Jerry probably has a picture. Jerry probably has a backstage picture with Tony Atlas.
Jerry was in the show. There's Tony, probably 60 with maybe his genetics are better than Kai's. Well,
maybe he should manage Kai, What a great! He could have definitely been a pro bodybuilder if he wanted. He probably made way more money in wrestling, I would think, though.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but he's another one who's he probably still looks this big, right, Chris?
Yeah, I haven't seen him for a while. I should text him after the show. He listens to the show. He told me he listens sometimes.
Yeah. We got to get him back on the show.
He's a big bodybuilding fan, Dave. I would love to
Let's get him on Heavy Muscle Radio one day. We'll record with him and
listen,
ask him all the.
Dave, you had him on. You need to have him on as an interviewer because when you had him on, had him on when it was like YouTube station.
That's true.
And if you listen to that interview, it's unbelievable, from the Arnold stories to the Vince McMahon stories to the Trump stories. Talk about someone with no degrees of separation anywhere. It's him.
The funny thing is, I have to go back and listen to it myself. It's probably just an audio interview.
It's audio, and he grew up in like death poverty.
Yeah. And
so it starts with that. I remember that I listened to the show and I said, Dave, this is unbelievable. And then how he met Vince McMahon, and he didn't really, he's his own guy. Like a lot of people meet, oh yes, McMahon. He wasn't that way, And just he wrestled Hogan for the championship a few times. He put Hogan right over his head on whatever the pose.
He body slammed him?
Yes, he body slammed Hulk Hogan. I think he's the only one ever to do it.
Wow. He probably was the only one who was strong enough
could do it.
I think I found the interview on RX Muscle. Hold on.
You probably, Dave, can find that clip of him body slamming Hulk Hogan.
This is the Heavy Muscle Radio. I had him on December of 2010, just when you first started looking at your condo in Miami there.
Yep.
December 6th, 2010. Derek Poundstone and Tony Atlas.
Holy smokes.
I gotta watch this.
It seemed like 4 years ago, Dave, because I know where I was in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, listening to it.
Yeah, Chris is like, last year when you interviewed Tony Atlas. It is crazy how fast time goes,
He coherently rambles on every topic you can imagine. Coherently. It's so insightful and entertaining, and
he's very for an older guy, he's really got it together still,
He's up on three things: wrestling, who's winning; bodybuilding, who's winning; and politics, who's winning.
Funny that he still follows bodybuilding. I love it. I could actually show the video, but I guarantee if I show the video that WWE will
they do demand.
There's the him and Hogan squaring off right there.
Look at he was packed.
Hogan's big. He's tall.
Yeah, you know what? Tony was, for a lot of people who are older like us, Tony was the first, bodybuilder that people had seen. You know what I mean? Because you didn't see bodybuilding on TV. You couldn't just go to YouTube. So if you followed wrestling, they introduced him as Mr. USA.
Yep.
Tony Atlas, and I mean, he looked like a bodybuilder 365 days a year.
That with Rocky Johnson right there? I think that's two of them. Yeah. That's The Rock's father on the right.
No, he'll tell you stories about, Dave, when you interview him, he'll tell you stories about The Rock come into the ring, and he's told me the stories before.
Oh, really? That's funny.
I'm putting him on my damn list. It's one of those shames that he lives like 3 miles from me, and I don't get together with him.
Oh, I know. You got to get him. You got to tell him we got to get him on the show again. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Because he's going to get older and older, and then what's going to happen is one day we're going to hear he passed, and we can't do that.
Yeah.
He deserves to. You know what it is? And like you said, I didn't have him on for 13 years ago. I had him on. So now with YouTube and with video and stuff like that, if I can get them on, it would be a whole new generation of people that will hear that interview and I think benefit from it. So
yeah, you can ask him, but say, Chris was at the 82 Nationals and you jumped in it was like the whim of whims. He had told me that,
Jumped in. Think about that. He jumped in. He probably called Jim Mannion up the night before and said, "Hey, Jim, it's Tony Atlas. Yeah, I want to do Nationals." Jim's like, "All right, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Let's do it, man." Because that definitely added a level of celebrity to that show, I'm sure.
You want to know what's so crazy about it, Dave? Because I don't think I followed any wrestling. Maybe in those days, I don't know. Because I was like 15 or something. And Tony Quiz, and his memory may be better than Jay's. And I know for a fact that he wore white posing trunks.
Oh my God!
Because when he came out, he just was not hard enough. He was way bigger than everyone in the heavyweights. He looked like Lee Haney's twin, a clone, but just not. You know what I mean?
He didn't prepare for the show. He just jumped in.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find a picture from that.
No, I don't think so. I think I tried to look. But he had the white trunks, which was, I thought, unique.
Yeah.
Who is white?
No,
It's
you got
It's like Cedric move, Dave.
I wouldn't be surprised if Cedric. I think Cedric did wear white one year.
Yeah, it's a contrast. They both say contrasts.
Yeah.
Create the contrast.
Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, I can't find the Nationals pictures, but he had a good physique for sure.
He's got that look. That's like a Phil shoulders and arms right there.
Yeah. I was gonna say he looks like Phil Heath right there. Even facially, he looks like Phil Heath a little bit there. Pretty cool.
Samson. Milos, if Milos had got him right there, he probably won like 9 Olympias. Tony, Mr. USA, get Mr. Olympia. I spoke to.
Yeah. He'd say I could put 45 pounds on him in 1 month, and he would do it.
That's a good front double from way back in the day. Dave, it's a front double. Guy traveled 52 weeks out of the year.
Yeah. And he probably ate 2 meals a day, and he probably was taking like 5 milligrams of Dianabol a day.
No, he told you on that video, that audio, what he took. It was like a joke.
What did he say? I don't even remember.
D-ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they loved D-balls because it was easy. They could just put them in their pocket, and take them, pop them during the day. If you or I took 1 or 2 D-balls, we probably wouldn't even look any different,
No, we'd just be water retentive.
Just get bloated from it. He put on like 25 pounds of muscle from like 2 D-balls a day.
Positive nitrogen balance for 3 years from Tony Atlas.
Oh my God.
Really one of the best people I've met in bodybuilding for sure, Tony. One day, Dave, I was in Hannaford grocery store. My in-laws were coming to town, and I went to get collard greens.
Yeah.
And I'm looking in the collard green. I'm like, what? And I hear this voice scream like, "Hey, man, something." Those aren't really collard greens. And he went and gave me a dissertation. He came over to like shoot the crap and tell me I didn't know what I was. He was going to pick the collard greens for me. And he did.
That's funny. Very funny. I think it was Friday, I guess. Boston Lloyd mom is making this documentary on Boston, and she's got a really good documentarian guy, director, producer of this whole thing that she had hired. He's made some big name documentaries. She's friends with him from California when she lived out there. No. And Elliot, the guy's name is Elliot. He came out and they shot me a couple hours with me on Friday.
Interesting.
And it was the first time I had really talked about Boston in a sense that here's Boston's mom. She looks great too. She competes. It was her comeback at like 60 years old there, but so she came here and she was basically asking me the questions about Boston off camera, and I was answering them, and they were filming my responses. And it really got me really sad about the whole thing. And I, 29 years old, and we lost this guy who was a smart kid, compassionate, good heart, reckless, we all know. you know, reckless to the nth degree. I mean, she sent me a clip that I was listening to him on one of his podcasts he had done, where he said the first show he got ready for, he was taking 25 cc's per day of gear, the most he ever took. He said, I look like shit. He said he couldn't even leave the house without taking like Tylenol and ibuprofen because he was so sore. And I said, what would possess someone to have to do such crazy stuff to themselves? And that's really what the special is about. You know, it's about why someone goes to the extremes they do, and knowing that they're probably going to kill themselves, knowing even though they have a child and a wife and a good life, they made good money for themselves. You know, he wasn't hurting from money at all. He was doing very well for himself. Why that wasn't enough. And I kind of got a little depressed after the whole thing was over because, you know, I was thinking and I said to myself, what if that was my son? You know, it has to be really hard as a parent, you know, when you can't reach your child, you know, logically or spiritually or whatever, and they go and do something so self-destructive and you lose them. And I know I know it hurts her, and I know she's in pain from that whole loss. But you know, it's a wake-up call, you know, and it's, as parents, we have this responsibility, but at the end of the day, you know, our children are their own people and they're going to make their own decisions. And that's a hard thing to be able to let go of that control, because, you know, you have young kids and now your kids are actually, you know, getting to the point where they can tell you to go F yourself if they really want to, although you might cut off the financing of them.
I may hit them with an Italian flag, Dave. Well, you know, Dave, when addiction has different ways of manifesting itself.
Yeah.
And, you know, people can get addicted to, you know, bad things, and they can get addicted to what seems to be good things that end up ending badly.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all.
He even says he was addicted.
Addictions are ways to you know, for a lot of people to mask things.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so hard to figure out. I mean, people try to unmask what they're masking, and you know, you could do therapy and it'd take you a gazillion years to figure it out.
Yeah. He loved.
Or you could ask Andrew Tate and you could say, get over it.
Yeah, right. But he loved bodybuilding and the drugs aspect of it so much that he says it, he admits it, because the guy is, there's no one more radically honest than Boston Lloyd was. I mean, there was nothing, he didn't try to paint any picture of himself. Sure. He's like, here, this is who I am. Love me or hate me, I don't care. And he just couldn't stop taking steroids. He loved it so much. It was the only thing that made him happy. And the funny thing is, steroids don't give you it's not like taking like a shot of heroin where you're going to get high from it. It's just the idea that I'm taking something that can help me build muscle and make me stronger. And that's what he was in love with. He loved that whole process. And so much so that he couldn't see himself living a life where he couldn't do that. And, you know, it's an addiction. He said it was, he goes, I'm addicted. It's obviously a mental addiction more than it is a physical addiction, because there's no physical addiction to steroids. It's a mental addiction. But yet he had it, and we lost him at 29 years old. It's crazy. Insane.
Yeah, sometimes mental addiction is the hardest addiction to kick.
Yeah,
you know,
because
for many
reasons. It's like anorexia. Yeah.
No.
You see these women starving themselves until they die. And they know that they need to eat, and they know that they're what's going on. They're aware of it, and they still cannot eat that food.
Yeah, well, it goes back to masking something that's so deep, you know. Well, sometimes it's so deep, but sometimes it's not, you know.
So if anyone has any interesting Boston Lloyd stories or anecdotes or anything like that, you can always contact Marie Rea on Facebook, and you can, you know, I'm sure she would love any contributions that people might have to the documentary, because this is a no holds barred real documentary. It's not, you know, it's really going to take a look into the life of Boston Lloyd. Sometimes people might have interactions with Boston and they didn't even, you know, realize it and say, hey, this might be good for the documentary. Mm-hmm. So contact her. I know they interviewed me. They're interviewing. I'm gonna do a show where we play some of those clips and have some of the top people like Lee and Romano and respond to some of what they think about the clips. I'm sure even this special, you know, you had some good insights here. because we don't want to see this happen again to someone. It was totally avoidable, and you know, he was a good kid and he had a good heart, and it's a shame we lost him. So that's all I want to say on that. I don't want to end on a sour note, but I will say we got to get Tony Atlas on this show for sure, and that would be a wonderful interview. And if anyone can think of a way to convince Kai Greene to get to that Olympia, please, let's do it, because this guy is looking amazing, and I want to see him compete just one more time.
Yeah, it's it feels like it might happen this year. You know why? Because in the past we were just like making a parody of it, right?
I don't know though. I mean, he did a guest posing. That's a far throw from, you know, getting on the Olympia stage. But
well, he did a guest posing looking remarkable.
Yeah.
If you can get Dave, send me any stills. I'm sure there's people out there who took lots of pictures of him. Yeah. Even though, you know, it's hard to get a still photo of Kai when he's doing guest posing because he never stops moving.
He doesn't stay still, Chris. Right?
Yeah. He hits a front double for like 1/1,000,000th of a
second. That's part of his whole act, right? I mean, he's a showman. You know, he's performing. I don't know. I think that he will regret it if he doesn't try one more time.
Dave, speaking of documentaries, a comeback documentary of Kai would be really, you know, intriguing, because you know, Kai has overcome a lot on so many different levels,
right?
And he's respected. You know, he's respected by his peers, people who competed against him, and he's respected by people, you know, who judge him. You know what I mean? Like the judges. Yeah. You know, they'd like to see him, I'm sure, compete. And you know, he's a unique character. I mean, there's always been a lot of, you know, celebrities in the sport. You know, bodybuilders who kind of, you know, became really well known, and because they're really well known as a bodybuilder, they have like celebrity status in the sport. But I think his is something that's lasting. You know, when you look back, you know, years from now, you'll think of the routines and, you know, the craziness, the controversies, you know, the physique, the artistry, you know what I mean? The artistry on stage, but also off, you know, how he's just a character.
If I were him, I would hire the documentarian myself if I were him, and have this way he can own 100% of the footage.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you could turn that into a little Netflix special, like a pumping iron-ish, and probably sell it to Netflix, because I see worse direct on there that sells, and there's not a person out there that wouldn't want to see Kai Greene, you know, his story. I mean, his story is a tremendous story from childhood up until
that's what I mean. That's
when he retired, and now the comeback. Yeah, it would be a great.
There's layers and layers of the Kai Greene story, which is what makes it so interesting. It's not just a guy with a great physique who hasn't competed for 10 years. You know, you go back to, you know, troubled youth, you know, cover that. You know, move up to, you know, he was a great bodybuilder as a teenager. I told you, right? I was at I'll finish with this. My comments on Kai Greene is, I was at the New York Pro selling, oh my gosh, what a memory. See, what a flashback, with Jay. And I was selling a bodybuilding book that I was at the Twin Lab booth. And Jay piggybacked onto the Twin Lab booth to sell his 8x10s. Got it?
Yep.
And in that day, within a segment of 1 hour, Bleckman was there, and Bleckman was aghast that I went out and printed this book by myself, because I was waiting for him to do it with me, and I decided to do it myself. And when he saw the book, he was like miffed, and he said, "Where'd this come from?" And I said, "Well, I've been waiting and waiting, so I had to publish myself." So I had the book published. So I got Jay on one side, Bleckman on the other. In comes David Lee Roth.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, and David Lee Roth came up to make small talk to me. I knew David Lee Roth from California.
Okay.
And then after David Lee Roth left, this guy came up and he was in a fishnet, it was like a shirt, but it was like fishnet, so you could see his entire
physique. I know exactly the shirt you're talking about. Yeah.
And he came up close to me and Jay, and he had a piercing on his nipple ring, on his nipple, which no one had back then. This was way back. And he started to talk to Jay, and Jay and him knew each other. And Jay turned to me and said, "This guy's going to be a great bodybuilder." And Jay was huge at the time. I think this had to be like, let's see, I'll tell you exactly what it was. 90, maybe he had not won the nationals yet. He won the tournament of champions. We're talking like 94, 95. And Kai was, looked good and big and round, but nothing like Jay at the time. Jay was like gigantic. And Jay had said to me, quote, "Mark my words, this guy's name is Kai GREENE. Kai meet Chris, Chris meet Kai," and Kai was like, didn't register with him. He
had to say Mr. Aceto. There's
he was, I think he was like enamored by looking at Jay, how big Jay was. And Jay said that this guy was going to be something really, really big.
Yeah.
Made the prediction right there.
Told you, I saw him when he was 19 years old competing in one of the shows I was in. Like he was in the teenage division, I was in the open division, and I'm like, this kid is unbelievable. And he was all natural.
Jay did say he was natural there. He said the kid after Kai left and maybe went to like speak with David Lee Roth. Jay said he's natural, the guy. So believe it or not,
Kai's diet consisted of, back then, he would eat like 500 chicken breasts a day. He would walk around with this cooler, and it was loaded with chicken breast and grapefruits. And no joke on the whole grapefruit thing. He would eat like 1 million grapefruits a day. That was like his contest diet: chicken breast and grapefruit. That's all he would eat.
Yeah, because everyone thought it made you burn more fat. Grapefruit.
Well, he thought that. Yeah, I don't know. It obviously worked somewhat for him, but because he's a genetic freak. But that's all he ate was chicken breast and grapefruits, and it was crazy. And he would sit there and probably eat 4 grapefruits at a time, and then knock off probably a pound of chicken breast. And it worked for him. He grew from that. But that's it's funny. We look back and we see how everything kind of connects to each other. Everything is connected, of course. And Kai's still going strong and is almost at 50 years old. I mean, he's got to be like close. So
that was 30 years ago. 30.
Yeah.
30,
yeah.
I would have been.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed our little look back today. This was kind of had an off week in bodybuilding, so we kind of just wanted to just take a look at some of the things that happened in the past that affected us. Because it's funny because you and I really were involved in all this, but we weren't at the top level of it. We just kind of were observers of it, which is kind of interesting because you worked with this person, I knew that person, and I competed against this person, you competed against that person, and we never talked to each other. I don't think Chris and I ever said hello to each other at a show until we started working together, here, like when I was at Muscle Development, maybe at the very end. Yeah. Never said hello. It's the craziest thing.
As my father would say, I thought I was better than you.
No, it was just we didn't run in the same circles. It was the weirdest thing, but we didn't realize we ran in the same circles. We just never said hello. We didn't know each other. Sometimes.
Dave, I got to we're having a baby shower here for a cousin, so
you better get out of here.
But next week I'll tell the story of the Italian flag.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good story. You definitely have to save that. Guys, thanks for joining us again on this first day of summer weekend. Hopefully you guys have a great summer planned, and we'll be back again next week as we always are. And as we say every week here at Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night. We'll see you next week.